We're clearly not very good at this.
I know, we suck. I don't know how to work as a team.
Me neither.
So I feel like it's been a while since I talked about Spider-Man on this channel. So why not kick off the new year with the Spider-Man movie tier list and give my opinion on every Spider-Man movie, because obviously there are some that are better than others, and the way I'm going to rank them is talking about how I feel about the movies personally, the story, the action scenes, and obviously the characters. And also, quick disclaimer, I won't be ranking these Spider-Verse films. Not that I don't like them, I just rather keep the tier list simple with the live action films. So sit back, relax, and let's swing straight into this tier list. Starting off with the film that started it all.
I have a father. His name was Ben Parker.
Spider-Man 1, the godfather of Spider-Man films. And it's going to be the first in GOATed. And it's GOATed for many reasons, and not just for nostalgia. It's actually an excellent movie. It has action, heartfelt drama, and many iconic moments, like the upside down kiss, Peter learning to web swing, the funny wrestling match, and the death of Uncle Ben are unforgettable. That's everything you want in a Spider-Man movie. Tobey's portrayal as Peter Parker in this film was just perfect. He was introduced looking like an actual nerd compared to the other live-action Peters. I mean, in the first 5 minutes, you already feel sympathy for him when he's running for the bus and getting bullied. The struggles he went through were relatable. Then his transformation into Spider-Man was iconic. The way he reacted when he realized he had spider powers were funny as hell. I'm pretty sure anyone who discovers they have superpowers would probably react the same way. His relationships with Uncle Ben, Aunt May, Mary Jane, and Harry Osborn are well developed, making his journey a personal and compelling one. Next, we're going to talk about the main villain and the one that made this movie what it is today. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin.
Misery, 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 that's what you've chosen.
By far the best villain in all live-action Spider-Man movies. His performance as Green Goblin was amazing, memorable. The way he was able to switch from personalities from Green Goblin back to Norman was awesome. He had everything the Green Goblin had in the comics, the glider, the pumpkin bombs, the enhanced strength, everything. Now I want to talk about the action scenes. The action scenes were unique, I would say, just because of the fact that some of the action scenes had no music in the background, so you could kind of feel every single punch, kick, grunt, scream. Every intense moment in this film felt dramatic.
Just give me a chance. Just give me a chance! What about my uncle? Did you give him a chance? Did you?
Which is why it's up there for having some of the best action scenes out of all Spider-Man movies. Overall, Spider-Man 1 is almost a perfect movie from start to finish. This film does an excellent job portraying Peter Parker's journey from an awkward teenager to a responsible superhero.
It's good to have you back, Spider-Man.
Now we are on to the sequel, Spider-Man 2. And it's another GOATed movie. I know, what a surprise. But people would even say that this one is even better than the first one. And it's because this movie is the most relatable superhero movie. We really get to see the emotional burden of Peter trying to live a double life, which causes him to lose his powers. Peter's struggles in this movie were so relatable. He's broke, stressed, and heartbroken. He faces failures in both his personal life and his superhero life.
Look at you, Peter. Your grades have been steadily declining. You're late for class. You always appear exhausted.
Like, it just feels real. It shows the actual reality of what you would go through if you were a superhero. And then, of course, another 10 out of 10 villain in Otto Octavius, aka Dr. Octopus. A rather unique villain. He started off sort of like a mentor to Peter. Then, unfortunately, science project gone wrong. He descends into villainy influenced by his mechanical arm. And I gotta say, his design for a 2004 movie was extraordinary. The action scenes, The train fight between Spider-Man and Doc Ock is legendary. Also, Spider-Man stopping the train is by far one of the greatest scenes in superhero movie history. Fans still watch and talk about it to this day. And then the way the film balances the action with emotion. Moments like Aunt May's speech about there being a hero in all of us.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
And Peter's confession of guilt as he blames himself for Uncle Ben's death. Every character feels real and actually contributes to the story. Spider-Man 2 is widely regarded as one of the best superhero movies of all time. It delves into a story about perseverance, failure, and redemption, making it more than just a superhero story.
Look at little Goblin Jr. Gonna cry?
Now on to Spider-Man 3, the last of the Tobey Maguire trilogy, and I'm gonna put it in good. Obviously, this movie is insanely popular now because of memes that can pretty much make anything and everything more funny than it actually is. But if you remember, if you're old enough, this movie was actually getting bashed a lot by reviewers. Some people downright hated this movie. Like, people were walking out of the theaters. That's how much they disliked it. But me personally, I still love this movie. It's still very, very iconic. It has a lot of memorable moments, and one of them being the introduction of the symbiote. The symbiote getting on Peter changed him, making him more cocky, more arrogant, more violent. We clearly see this in his fights against Sandman and his best friend Harry. And then, of course, we have the famous dance scenes. Who the hell can forget those?
So dance, wanna put you in a trance. Let's party, boogie in your body, want that body.
Now I want to talk about the villains and how much I love the Sandman. I actually liked his story. They made him to be the one that murdered Uncle Ben instead of the guy from the first movie. He never really wanted to hurt anybody. All he wanted was money so he could save his sick daughter. But the way he fought, the way he used his sand powers is literally like straight out of a comic book. It was perfect. Now I want to talk about Venom. And I'm gonna be honest, Venom was very underwhelming in this film. They didn't get him right in 2007, and hell, they still can't get him right now. He was just underdeveloped and rushed. And also, he lacked screen time. Also, another thing I didn't like about the movie was Mary Jane. Once again, for the third time, cheats on her partner. Mary Jane in this movie was honestly just annoying. They always put her in this love triangle every movie, and it's just pointless in my opinion. Other than a few minor flaws like the story just being all over the place instead of settling for just one plot, it is to me still a good movie. It has good action sequences, a heartfelt story, and drama. Definitely more popular and liked now than it was back in 2007.
Who are you? Spider-Man.
Now we get into the next iteration, that is The Amazing Spider-Man, starring Andrew Garfield. And I'm gonna say, I really, really love this movie. So that's why I'm gonna put it in GOATed. Not a lot of people were fans of it at first because everyone just loved Tobey Maguire too much. But I always liked Andrew Garfield. He wasn't as bad as a lot of people say he was. So in this film, the tone feels way more serious and grounded compared to the earlier movies, which right away had me interested. They go more into Peter's backstory with the mysterious disappearance of his parents, giving his character more of a mysterious tone. Then you have other characters like Gwen Stacy, who was a way better love interest for Peter compared to Mary Jane in the first trilogy. Then you have this film's Uncle Ben, Aunt May, Captain Stacy, and even Flash Thompson, who are all good characters. The action and web slinging scenes are beautifully done, giving us different angles, sometimes even putting us in Spider-Man's perspective of swinging, which I thought was pretty cool. The fight scenes with the Lizard, aka Dr. Connors, who I will talk about in a second, show the creative use of Spider-Man's abilities and agility. This film also goes more into depth on Peter's intellect, like him creating his own webs like he did in the comics. for example, when he's in the sewers and he makes that little web trap to track vibrations to see where the lizard is coming from. Or during the school fight when he wraps up the lizard with all his webs, similar to what spiders do with their prey. Now let's talk about Dr. Connors. He's sort of portrayed as like a tragic figure in this film. He was just desperate to find a way to regenerate his lost limb, like the way reptiles do. His descent into villainy is both sympathetic and terrifying because he thinks everyone should be like him, and he tries to turn all the people in New York City into lizards.
Poor Peter Parker.
This movie overall is amazing, definitely adds more of an emotional and dramatic tone to Spider-Man that Tobey's trilogy honestly lacked at times.
Hey, my name is Spiderman. You can call me Webhead. You can call me amazing. Just don't call me late for dinner. Get it?
Now we are on to The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I'm going to put this one in good, because I still liked it, but this is another one that got heavily bashed by reviewers. Some even saying it's one of the worst superhero movies of all time.
You're a fraud, Spider-Man!
And I'm going to say that's straight up bullshit. Is it perfect? Hell no. But it's not as bad as people said it was. My main issue with this movie was there were too many plot points for its own good. Like, you start to wonder, what was the main plot of the movie? Is it Peter's parents? Harry's illness? Electro? It was just overcrowded with too many damn storylines. And then obviously we all know there was supposed to be a future film after this one where Spider-Man fights the Sinister Six. That's basically what this movie was setting up for, but of course, that never happened, which made people hate it even more. Other than a few more flaws, this was one of the most beautiful superhero movies in terms of graphics and action sequences. Spider-Man's web slinging and his battle with Electro are both visually colorful and creative. His theme song, the soundtrack of the movie are great, and it fits perfectly with the setting. Then, of course, we have the tragic death of Gwen Stacy. Probably the most memorable and impactful moment of the entire movie. They made it so dramatic, and I thought it was perfect because I was like, is she gonna die? Nah, Peter's gonna save her. Wait, she actually might die. Like, I didn't know. I'm not gonna lie, my first time watching this movie in the theaters, I did not see that shit coming. I was surprised at 13 years old that Spidey's love interest died. I was always so used to him saving Mary Jane in the other movies. But unfortunately, even with those great moments, this movie just lacks in story, in my opinion. Just too many things going on at once. It made the same mistake Spider-Man 3 did.
Hey, how you doing? Don't worry about it, I got you.
So now we are on to the third iteration of Spider-Man, debuting Tom Holland. While this movie was praised for its charm and humor and also finally integrating Spider-Man into the MCU, but first I want to talk about the good things of this movie. So in this movie we see a youthful Peter Parker navigating through high school while trying to learn how to be a superhero. We are also introduced to new characters like his best friend Ned, Liv, MJ aka Michelle Jones, and a reimagined Aunt May, who by the way was fine as hell. So the unique thing about this movie is, compared to the other films, it straight up skips the already familiar Spider-Man origin story, assuming the audience already knows it. As if you are a fan of Spider-Man, you should already know it. This movie has a lot of humor in it. Often when we see Peter inexperienced at being a solo hero, or his interactions with Ned and Tony Stark. I really like the part where you see him actually being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, like stopping petty crimes and giving directions to people. I just thought it was really funny and kind of wholesome.
Hey, buddy. Oh! Shouldn't steal cars. It's bad. It's my car, dumbass.
Him trying to save the fairy with all his webs was a pretty cool scene, even though he was gonna fail and it had to be saved by Iron Man. But in conclusion, the whole movie is just him trying to impress Tony Stark so he can join the Avengers. So not that bad of a plot. It makes sense since he's still super young. He was only 15 years old. So in the end, it makes sense. Now on to the things that kind of bothered me. And one of them was Vulture. I just thought he was kind of mediocre and whack. I didn't really take him seriously. I mean, his costume looked cool. The twist that he was Liv's dad the whole time was also aight. But him as a main villain, he was just kind of underwhelming. And another thing that kind of bothered me was the action scenes kind of lacked the unique style of Spider-Man. The action scenes were probably some of the weakest parts of the film. They weren't downright horrible, but they were kind of dull. But I guess since he was pretty much a rookie, I'll give him a pass. And then you got this forced romance with Liv that I wasn't really feeling at all. So in the end, Spider-Man Homecoming is a good movie. It has lots of humor. It gets the young and youthful version of Peter Parker right. But at times, I feel like it ties too much into Tony Stark stealing the show, and the action scenes could have been a bit better. But overall, honestly, good movie. That's why I'm going to put it in spectacular.
How's the suit?
The suit's great. It's awesome. It's a little tight around the old web shooter.
Parker.
Okay, I'll shut up.
Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm going to be honest with y'all. In my opinion, this is the worst Spider-Man movie. It's not a terrible movie. It's just a movie that I wouldn't willingly watch if you gave me a choice. I just feel like there's a lot of flaws that left me shaking my head instead of being immersed. And one of the reasons is the over-reliance of Tony Stark's legacy. The whole film revolves around Peter being overshadowed by Iron Man's death. And I understand this is right after Endgame, but honestly, it didn't even feel like a Spider-Man film. It honestly felt like an Iron Man epilogue, if anything. And another thing that bothered me was the overrated villain in the film, Mysterio. It was so obvious that he was going to betray Peter. Sure, his illusion scenes were great, but just the overall villain himself was just boring and just lacked the aura that the previous Spidey villains had. Another thing that bothered me was the out-of-nowhere romance between Peter and MJ. Like, he just started liking her out of nowhere. There was barely any interaction between the two in the first film. There was absolutely no build-up to this. It just happened off-screen. I mean, I guess, because her name is MJ. The action scenes were mediocre at best. It just consisted of Peter fighting a bunch of drones. The whole night monkey thing was a little funny. And also, by the way, one of the worst Spider-Man suits. I don't know why Insomniac continues to include that shit in the game. Don't really have too many good things to say about this movie other than the comedy. Trust me, the comedy is there, but everything else that made the other Spider-Man films good, it didn't have. But its over-reliance of Tony Stark's legacy, boring and predictable villain, and it not taking place in New York City so the web swinging was limited, led this movie to be mediocre at best.
Peter!
Yeah?
Oh, sorry.
Did you mean that?
Or
Peter.
we're all called Peter, man.
Peter Parker?
Same again. We're all Peter Parker.
Last but not least, we are finally at Spider-Man No Way Home. And holy shit, this is the best Spider-Man film of all time. This might be even the best movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm so glad I got to witness this movie in theaters. Getting excited around other Spider-Man fans, hearing the people cheer, it was honestly a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Give yourself a pat on the back if you are one of those people that's seen this movie in theaters when it first came out. This movie tells the story of Peter Parker's growth into true heroism. Unlike his previous movies, Peter is now forced to confront the consequences of his choice without relying on others like Iron Man or Happy. Tom Holland's Spider-Man actually fights in this movie compared to his previous films. Seeing him throw punches and seeing them connect was something Spider-Man fans waited long for with Tom's Spider-Man. The return of outstanding villains like William Dafoe's iconic Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Dr. Connor, Sandman, and Jamie Foxx's improved Electro. I actually liked his character. Then you got the shocking death of Aunt May. This was basically Peter's canon event, and it served as Peter's defining moment of truly learning.
And with great power, there must also come great responsibility.
And, of course, bringing back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. And it's not just for fan service. It actually served a narrative purpose. They mentored Tom Holland's Peter, evolving him into the hero he is now. The interaction between the three Spider-Men were perfect. They bonded with each other by talking about the hardships they had to endure, like the theme of loss, redemption, and hope. The fight scenes were amazing, like the final fight at the Statue of Liberty and the fight between Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. And I'm not gonna lie, bro, the scene where Green Goblin stabs Tobey, bro, I swear if they would have killed him off like that, I would have deadass had the biggest crash out of 2021. Then in my opinion, the most satisfying ending out of any Spider-Man movie. The ending where Peter's life is basically resetted, stripping him of his friends, his resources, Stark Industries, everything. By choosing to let Ned and MJ to forget him to ensure their safety truly shows the ultimate character development that Spider-Man fans waited long for. To me, he truly now is Spider-Man, with him finally making his own suit from scratch, accepting that he's alone and now an independent hero, which Spider-Man always was. No more help from Stark Industries, no more help from Doctor Strange. He truly now is a lone hero. This film rewards us longtime Spider-Man fans with references from previous movies like Andrew Garfield's redemption, saving MJ from falling, and to Tobey Maguire's wise and experienced Spider-Man. This movie to me truly captures the true spirit of Spider-Man. That's gonna do it for this tier list. Let me know in the comments on what you guys think. Am I wrong about some movies? Are some movies too high or too low? I want to hear your thoughts. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next.